Hey, 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 you guys. It is Ali. You guys, here, hold on, let me flip. That way it'll show right on my other platform. There we go. Hey, everybody. It is Ali. Let me first apologize for canceling the 8 o'clock show that I have on Sundays with Real Radical Revolutionary. Just canceled that one. We were going to talk about abortion and women's rights, who has the rights to women's bodies, but we won't be talking about that tonight. So I'm going to just do a blog since I'm in front of the camera, ready to go, rocking and rolling and all of that. And I just want to talk about what's going on in the US, y'all. Are we going down the drain? Is the US going down the drain? Are we already down the drain? And what I mean by that is there's so much happening right now all over the world. We've got political stuff happening. We've got the onset of people thinking World War III is going to start. We've got, inflation, and people are calling it a housing bubble. Is it really that? Do we know that the Treasury, printed how many trillions of dollars or something like earlier this year? Things that are causing an influx in, our economy here in the States, the crazy entertainment stuff that's going on. I don't know if y'all been following, and I haven't really been following, but I was gonna watch a couple videos and comment on this Amber Heard Johnny Depp thing. And only because there seems to be like a imbalance in relationship kind of thing, and this, I hate the word toxicity, but everybody like uses that word, but this toxic relationship that they have, and very physical, like just like she seems like a character. And the first thing I thought of when I saw that, and I'll get back to it, is hopefully Jason Momoa dodged a bullet, because I think he went back home. And I know there was some ramblings and stuff like that, utterings around he and Amber Heard. So hopefully he dodged the bullet on that one, because it doesn't seem, I mean, like from, y'all, we'll talk about it, the stuff that I kind of came across as they're in court. And then I just thought about, man, that would just suck to have your life and the things that you said, all the text messages, the voicemails played for everyone in the world to see, right? So just all of these different things that are, going on right now. And are we headed as like, is this the distraction for something bigger? This is an election year. It's a local election year. So, of course, we were going to talk about the abortion thing. That's a huge thing that's going on right now. It's not necessarily huge, but it should be. Like, I feel like it's not as huge as it should be. But we'll talk, I'll just touch a little bit on that, because it's one of these things where it's like, it's almost like we're trying to reestablish what our beliefs are. The first thing I thought of was the church and state thing. Is why is it now like so such a negative thing for someone, in any state, not any state like state, but state of being, state of mind, a woman to, whether it's medical, whether it's physical, or just choice to control her own body. And I wanted to get you guys input on that. I actually may talk about that a little bit, since we didn't go live about that tonight, but I may just talk about that just a little bit. But then there's like, I was gonna even do, like, the other day I came on live and I was gonna do a couple conversations, or not conversations, things that I saw on social media, and I want to talk about. One was the the airline, it was a flight going somewhere, I don't know. But anyway, there was, I guess, a church group or something on this flight, and they got up and asked the flight attendant or whatever, could they sing? And they pulled out their guitars and banjos, and I don't know what they had. But anyway, they started singing Christian songs, and there were people who were offended. And some people who weren't necessarily offended, but they kind of said, well, what if another group of people, a different race of, not race, Orthodox, a different religious group wanted to get up and do the same thing, or wanted to pray in the aisles, or whatever the case may be, would it have been as accepted and as allowed? And so would you be offended? Would you feel like, I think a lot of people were saying, it was this idea of pushing your beliefs onto everyone. Because everybody wasn't thrilled. It looked like, even on the plane, when you look at the video, somebody's doing a video, and it didn't look like everybody was thrilled with that. But what are your thoughts on that? And then there were a couple relationship topics that I was going to bring up. I think I posed a question on my Facebook the other day. What was it? What was my question? Hold on, you guys. My question, my relationship question the other day, maybe I deleted it. I don't know, y'all. I'll be cleaning out stuff on my social media. But I wanted to talk about this leadership role thing, and these may be like just one-off topics, things that I do when I just pop on and go live and stuff like that. But the leadership in a relationship structure between male and female, or whoever defines themselves as the leader or not, in that relationship, and what that actually looks like, and what does it mean when someone says they want to lead, and position wise, does it really matter what your experience is? Like, where in the world do we accept somebody taking lead when they've never experienced something? And it happens a lot. If you think of coaching, this was just one of the things I was thinking about. You think of coaches, a lot of times coaches, have never played ball before, but they've coached, they've been in the game for a long time, but they never actually, maybe they were too short to play basketball or something like that, but they're coaches. But what's that experience, and talk about that in terms of a romantic relationship. So anyway, yeah. So I'm just kind of just like doing a dump of all the things that I think have, transpired in the last week, things that have popped up. I think we're off of the well, we're not really off of, but it's kind of simmered down with the slap thing, and now a lot of people are posting memes and different conversations and clippings and things like that. I just saw one of Chris and Bernie Mac, and Bernie Mac was saying, who would slap Chris? Ain't nobody should be slapping Chris, or whatever. And this was obviously a long time ago, because Bernie Mac is no longer here with us. But everybody's finding all these old clips, and that's what I was talking about. I was talking about the Russell Wilson and Sierra thing, and I got a lot of comments, or got some comments on my my post, and it was about being square, or this idea that all women want a bad boy, and my question around, is that actually true? So I'm kind of going to do a little dump today, because since I'm on here with y'all, I want to know who, if you jump on, let me know that you have joined, where you are watching from. If you are on my YouTube, because I may end the Facebook, and then you have to go to my YouTube, because I don't know if it's going in and out, but it looks like it's I'm getting a delay, so I may stop the Facebook feed and jump right over to the to YouTube directly. So anyway, you guys, let me know if you guys are on here. If you are watching, I'll actually try to put the link. If you comment on Facebook, if somebody can comment so I can see if I actually can see the comment. Actually, let me go on here. I can actually see if I can see the comment. But let me know if you guys are on and watching, what you guys are up to today, this Sunday afternoon. Hey Dana, hey Ria, I can actually see you guys, so I'm just logging on my other phone. So And I can get Facebook comments. So if you guys want to comment, that would be fantastic. All right, you guys. So out of all the stuff that I was talking about, um, oh my gosh, what am I going to start with? Let's start with the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp thing. Are you guys aware of what's happening there? I kind of want to play a clip, but I think I'm gonna kind of go off of memory. We just gonna go just off of memory or whatever, right? So, and let me just tell you how bad this is. Like, I didn't know they were married. That's how much I keep up with all of this stuff. Like, I didn't even know that they were a couple. And so it was really weird because even when you see her in court, I'm just like, is that the Amber Heard that was in Aquaman? Like, people look completely different without the makeup, and, her hair is blonde now and she looks like, Little House on the Prairie, perfectly, clean face, no makeup, she's very solemn looking and stuff like that. And it's really weird too, because when they're reading or playing back uh, some of the recordings and some of the police reports and stuff like that, I was just like, wow, a lot happened. And I think sometimes too, when you look at people, like, we don't know people, and this is one of those examples when you think you know people because you see them on TV, or you see them on not podcasts, because you can't see them on podcasts, but you see them on videos and lives and stuff like that. And so you think that you are connected to these people in some way because you get to watch them, you get to watch their life, you get to watch what they're going through on a daily basis. And then you see them in these settings, you're like, who are these people? And so, like, I don't know that I ever visualized Johnny Depp as somebody who kind of would even put up with that stuff, right? But he talked about his life with his mother and how that kind of set the stage, and some of the abuse and the mistreatment, or kind of even suppressing some of that, but putting up with women who are abusive. And then you look at Amber Heard, and I just don't know anything about her except, just seeing her in Aquaman, right? And then, of course, her name popping up with the Jason Momoa thing with he and Lisa Bonet, whether that was accurate information or not. But you see, this glam lady, and she seems like she's got it together or whatever. I mean, that's all you see, and I don't Google people because if I'm not interested, I'm not interested. Most of the time, I ain't interested. But listening to some of the things, like he was talking about her defecating on the bed and then saying it was the dog, the messages that they actually played, like the stuff that they actually played and read, that's real. Like, that's not made up. It's not hearsay or anything like that. And the recording where she was saying, I didn't even hit you, like I slapped you or something like that. It wasn't, or I didn't, whatever. It wasn't a hard hit. You should be okay. You're a man and all this stuff, right? And, he apparently and obviously was refraining himself from her attacks and trying his best not to, I guess, put his hands on her. And I guess even when he tried to leave, I don't know if they had an altercation or she tried to stop him from leaving, or this kind of mental game where, it would be, hey, I want you back. Kind of, all the stuff that you see in movies, and you're just like, this isn't real. And you see this couple who, like I said, who all on my live right now, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook, or StreamYard, who knew that they were a couple? Did y'all know? Y'all even know who I'm talking about? I know y'all know who Johnny Depp is. He played in Pirates of the Caribbean. What else did Johnny Depp play in, y'all? Because I don't follow Johnny Depp. He wasn't Edward Scissorhands. Scissorhands was, no, that was a different guy. Was that a different guy, or was that Johnny Depp? I don't even know what else he played in. Like, I can't even think of it off the top of my head, but like, I didn't know. So I don't even know if you guys know who I'm talking about. But, even if you don't, just some of the things that they were expressing, that, he's sitting in court and he's talking about all these incidents, to the judge, and then they're reading, transcripts of, police reports, and stuff like that. The number of times that she would physically, get into an altercation or the fights that they would have. And of course, he's not, a saint either. He just didn't necessarily hit her or do anything to her. He had some of his own personal issues that he talks about, with alcohol abuse and stuff like that, I guess. I think I heard him saying, but never would, never put his hands on her. And I don't think she even said that he did. She just basically said, I didn't hit you that hard. But she would do it over and over. I guess she threw stuff at him. The typical stuff that you see in movies that you don't think is real. And this Hollywood couple is, they've put all of their business. It's so weird too. I also wonder why they publicly, did this. Like, why they wanted it shown, and maybe they didn't have a choice. Maybe because of how the charges were filed, or whatever court they're in. They're by law, the public has a right to actually see it because there's cameras in the courtroom. I don't know, because you don't see everything, so I don't know why this one needed to be broadcast. Because it definitely doesn't put her in a good light. And if you didn't know these personal things about him, now is that sympathy kind of getting thing, or for the guys who chime in, do you guys feel like you've experienced women like this? Like, is this, I know this isn't like new, but is this something where you feel like you've come in contact with, or you're seeing more women who have some of these characteristics and traits, and the aggressiveness and stuff like that you kind of see as this story is unfolding? Please share your thoughts your thoughts on that. So yeah, that's, I saw the stuff that was being passed along with that story, and I was just in awe. I was sitting here like, is this real? Like, is this a movie? Are these people really going through this? And I guess people are people. It's another one of those examples where we get a chance to actually just see that people are people, right? So when I was looking at all the other entertainment stuff, my first thing I always do whenever I see something crazy happen in entertainment, first thing I do, and I tell y'all this all the time, is I go and I look and see what's happening with the stocks, what's happening politically, right? And let me see. I was watching one of my investment videos. I'm trying to get into a habit of, getting some information, I guess, if I want to call it that, daily on like investing and doing different things like that, because that's like my new world, is to be a little bit more informed in that, and clearing up the headspace to actually kind of get into some of those things. And so I naturally now try to listen to a couple, not podcasts per se, but just anything that's talking about different investment opportunities, different investors, different investor groups, how people are doing certain things. And it's funny because if you're on YouTube, you'll see tons of different videos about how I made $5,000 in 50 minutes. And those are the ones I typically ignore. Because if it was that easy to make $5,000 in 50 minutes, no one would be poor. So there's got to be something, right? There's got to be something to that. So I really don't follow that. But I do look at the ones that talk about like longer term investment, or, I did watch this one where this kid, he's a kid because he's like in his 20s, but how he basically was working one night and he took $200 and got lucky because he knew how to watch stocks and stuff like that, put 200 in and kept, it becomes a job. You literally got to put money in different places and take it out and stuff. And I tried to do that once, and I just, after like it was a couple of weeks, I lost money, of course, but I lost interest in it because I was just not necessarily interested, but it became a full-time job and I was working a full-time job. And I was just like, oh my God, I just don't have the capacity to, because you gotta be like on the dot, know when to sell, know when to switch, when to take it out of this one and move it into that one. And basically he was just showing this process. And in the span of 4 hours, he made $199,000. He cashed out like 198 that day. Um, the buying low, selling high, buying, moving from, and so I just look at stuff like that, because those are sometimes those one-offs that you have. And he was like, he tried to do it again. It wasn't successful. So it's not an all, something that happens all the time. He just, he was in the right place at the right time. And, he left his job that day. It's not like he won $1 million, but, he was able, he made enough that he could now take some time off and figure out what he wants to do, and not be working a night shift or whatever. So anyway, I've been watching those different types of things, and sometimes, when I look at all these headlines, all this stuff that's coming across our timeline, and the first thing I do is say, okay, well, what's going on in the world? Outside of my little bubble that I'm in, the things that I'm trying to accomplish and do, and move from this place to that place, or figure out my next steps and all of that. Like, how do you go from all of this influx of information and stuff that's going around, and then really kind of have an idea of what's about to come. And y'all know I always say, when there's a lot of nonsense, we gotta check behind the curtains. The Wizard of Oz curtains. We gotta check behind the curtains sometimes. And so I started looking at money. Where's the money flowing? Obviously, we know the housing market is great if you are a seller. Is it raining? Oh, it is. It's raining. Y'all, I keep hearing this pitter patter, and I'm like, what is this noise? Yay, I get free water for my grass. That is something that I think about on a regular basis. But just the economy in the United States, we're talking about like inflation and all this stuff that's happening, but is this a normal inflation, or is this more like kind of a corporate induced inflation? Government induced inflation. I guess technically, depending on how you look at life, it always seems like it's government induced inflation, right? Most things are controlled by someone saying, okay, we need to take from here and dump it somewhere else, which is going to cause a crash here and an influx here, right? And I attribute that or associate that to an example when I lived in Chicagoland, right? So when we would get huge rainstorms, the way the city was built, it was built on massive underground drainage systems. So we have probably one of the best drainage systems in the United States, but not all parts of the city are made equal. Okay. And so obviously, and I'll just say it clear as day, the richer areas have better drainage, or more control over how things are drained. And so there was one year where a lot of houses were flooded. And one of my friends lived on the west side, and he has a basement. So if you're, not from, places like in the Midwest and stuff where we build down, you may not have experienced a basement. But in any case, assume that like you're in like this, like I'm in the basement now. There was more water than like right here. Actually, his one water line was about here, but the other water line was like up to his shoulder. And it's not that it rained that much. What happens is they have these valves. Just share this with y'all to give this example of how a lot of this stuff and a lot of situations that happen in lower funded districts, and we call them like, natural disasters and stuff. Some of it is controlled by money. So anyway, they have valves where it's like dams underneath the ground, and they can turn on and off these valves that push the water to different places. So, people who are wealthy are like, if I was wealthy and I had money, hell yeah, we gonna make sure that water is deferred somewhere else. But what I would hope that I would do, and kindness of my heart would be to say that we need to make sure that the entire city gets, some sort of runoff, because we do have a whole lake there. Um, should the runoff go into the lake, and should it be directed more directly into the lake rather than, we pull it out of one area and then it automatically pushes to another area, so that area always gets flooded. And it's always an area that, and this area was kind of mixed because, there was a lot of older historic homes and stuff in this area. It wasn't like, the projects kind of thing. It wasn't that. It was just, they moved it away from like the kind of lakefront and some of the northern northern city areas, and it was something that they experience on a regular basis. And even if you get insurance to cover it, it didn't help because you're out of house and home. Like, all your stuff is damaged. You got to go through this process of getting your house redone, all the walls knocked out because everything now has mold on it. All of these things that you have to go through, and people are like, oh, your insurance will cover it. I'd much rather not have the incident. So anyway, I say all that to say, sometimes things are done in order to create these highs and lows. And oftentimes they happen when we're not paying attention, and when we're super distracted by all this other stuff. So when I just started seeing real crazy stuff, like folks walking on stage slapping people, and people talking about somebody defecating in their bed and it's a human being, and cutting their fingers off, and slice his finger with all this great kind of crazy stuff. You kind of just start to sit back, and then you got the other half of the world that's all this other stuff is happening, and then it's whispers about COVID now, and then they've changed the ruling. They announced that you don't have to wear a mask on a plane. I'm still gonna wear my mask on a plane, and the reason I say that is because I actually, as much as I hated having to have something on my face, because I hate the obstruction, I actually like the idea of not sitting right next to somebody and having all of whatever it is that they're breathing all over me, and vice versa. They don't know me. But it's been really nice until you get on an airplane, or when you go anywhere, to have this social distancing thing. Let me tell you, I get tired of people being in my personal space. Like, I don't need you on my neck. Like, and they're like, when you travel, that's when you experience the most violations of personal space. But anyway, that was announced last week. Hey, Spirit Journey, good evening. And Adventurer and the Gentleman, what's up? That's a long name. How many characters is that? What an intriguing question. Which question? The question about what's going on in the world, or the Amber Heard thing, or the COVID thing? So, and I'm not going to tell you guys, y'all know I'm a traveler, and I can't wait to get back out in these streets, in these clouds, and get moving and shaking again. And we can see that the world is opening up, and you can see it clearly when you look at ticket prices. Ticket prices are out the wazoo starting in June, because most people have not traveled for 2 years. You got a lot of things happening, a lot of rules and regulations around COVID. Those things are, they're changing in some places where they're not as strict, or they're letting, giving concessions to certain things, more concessions if you're vaccinated, but they're also lightening up if you're not vaccinated. Some are not putting a rule on you got to show, every booster, or whatever, because depending on which shot. And I thought that was confusing, because what if you got mixed shots in the beginning? How do you know how many boosters you're supposed to have? So that makes me just like so confusing, right? But a lot of that stuff is going to be lifting. You said, is the U.S. going down? Yes. So what do you think? Let me know what you think. With all the stuff that's happening, it's kind of one of those trigger kind of topics, because in some people's mind, depending on where you sit, this is the high point, for some people. Like, this is, imagine if you are, and I'm kind of jumping around, I'm just kind of feeling things and jumping around, but imagine if you are in this world where you can benefit from what's happening. And let me kind of backtrack as I talk about COVID a little bit, and all these different things that are popping up that we're not hearing too much about. Now there's other things that are becoming more, getting brighter headlines and stuff like that. But I kind of want to draw our attention back to this whole COVID thing. Um, it, we've had 2 years to sit in it, like literally 2 years to sit in it, and hopefully come out better from it. And not just talking about the vaccination part of it, or the mobility, or jobs, but we've seen, you know um, our ability to manage our households hopefully a little bit better, in terms of, now everybody's at home. We had to figure out how to teach our kids how to, be teachers, and all those kinds of things. We had to be a little bit more responsible, or involved in our relationships with our kids, and their teachers, and what they're learning. And at the same time, kind of really juggle schedules, and really start paying attention to what's happening in the world from a government standpoint. Um, what kind of rights you do and do not have, and what impositions can be put on you, depending on who you are, where you are, all those kinds of things. Don't let me forget about the whole marijuana thing, and the anti-lynching bill. Like all these things, like all this stuff is just like boom, 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 right? Like right now, like it's like in your face. But with COVID also, it put us back at home with our families. Whereas going to work every day, we had, for years and years, last 40 years, we've been trying to get out the house. We trying to get jobs. Women are trying to be in corporate America. Men are trying to move up the ladder. We were leaving our kids as babysitters and putting them in before and after school care. Trust me, I did. I had a latchkey kid and all that stuff too. Of course, you look back in hindsight and you wish that, something like not COVID would happen, but that the world would be shown that what we have been told is not possible was proven possible by something that was put out there, right? And so, COVID had some positive benefits because it showed us what we're capable of doing. It showed us that we could come back together as a family. It also showed you that you could be strong enough with what's going on. Don't allow somebody to dictate to you what is going to be the thing that you need in your household. And so how many people, we had what they call the great resignation last year, 2021, where people were just like, I am not doing this. You're not going to talk to me any kind of way. I just saw a meme where, I don't know if this was real or not, but a boss sent an email to their employees because 3 people quit on the same day, and basically send something to the entire company saying, if you're planning on quitting, you need to give 3 months, and you're going to train everybody, and you're going to take a pay cut. And like, you think people want to stay? Then I'd be like, I'd stagger my quit. Okay, so you quitting today, I'm gonna quit next week. I'm gonna quit, whatever. And first of all, you can't tell nobody how long of a term that they, if I already got another job, I'll leave tomorrow. You're getting that grace to get a couple weeks. And I've always been a person to make sure you leave on good terms, and make sure you give a notice and all that kind of stuff. But when people start, when these corporations and stuff start raising their hands like that, I think what we're proving is that just as regular, common, everyday people, you don't have to put up with that, right? And so that's another thing. So we had an influx of entrepreneurs, and not so much that we need a whole bunch of entrepreneurs. What I'd like to see is more collaboration, more people coming together, doing things, building from each other, instead of reinventing the wheel over and over and over and over again, and then failing or making mistakes and things like that. But doing things which requires us to be more connected with each other. And I think we believe that we had more connection because we were leaving and being out in public every day. But how many of you guys even talk to your coworkers? How many people literally go to work every day and don't know anybody? How many people live in their neighborhood or apartment building and you don't know your neighbors, right? So being out does not necessarily mean that you are making actual connections, because you still don't have as much time. Whereas now you have more time, you're home, now you're doing gardening, you got to mow your own lawn, all this stuff. And so now you're meeting at the mailbox, or you see more people more often, or you're looking outside going, oh, it's a lot of people walking dogs. Oh my God, I didn't know that many people lived around here, or whatever the case may be. And so now you are now being afforded more time to actually build real relationships, right? And the real relationships are the things that carry you, because ain't nothing like talking to somebody who you didn't know. Like, I had somebody come in and do an estimate the other day, and they basically just put their house on the market like 2 days ago. So I'm just listening, get my ear to the grind, listen to what people are doing and stuff like that. And but they were talking about all these other things, and we ended up talking about travel. Their family is from Mexico. And he hadn't been home. He hadn't been to Mexico since he was 5. And so, of course, that just triggered me to talk about traveling. And we were just talking about a number of different things, and just listening to, where he is, and, what they're trying to do as a family, and, not knowing what they're going to do if they sell, because the market is, they're hoping the market is good enough to sell, which it does look like it. Especially here in Texas, we are one of the migration centers, the epicenters of of the country. One of a nice handful, but what opportunities that affords. And as I was talking, he was like, wow, do you have a YouTube? How do I follow some of the things? Because we're trying to do research and study, and just see where to go, where we could go, and what we could do. And I just imparted a little bit of information to him, and I said, the amount of money that you spend per month living in the United States, and this is what I mean, kind of going down the drain, amount of money you spend in the United States on a monthly basis, you could probably go back to Mexico and spend some time and spend less with your entire family, right? Of course, do your research and find out, because I don't know what their lifestyle is. They might be extra glam or whatever, but they run a business. And he said, we pay taxes every year. We run this, the business, I was getting quotes for. And he was like, every year we got to pay a night. And the amount he said he paid in taxes is not a small amount. So I'm not quite sure why they have to. It's none of my business. But, I just shared with him what some of the possibilities are. And he was just like, wow, I've never talked to somebody who's traveled like that before. And he was just interested. So like I said, a lot of times you don't know, and like you're not necessarily afforded the time to have these kinds of conversations with people. And so, I always look at those kinds of situations and go, okay, well, how does this benefit me? Or what silver lining can I take from it? And then also, what lessons, what can I learn? What can I start to research? What can I start paying attention to that's happening behind the scenes? That's rather a complex conversation, but the short answer is no. You don't think the US is going down the drain. Okay. Elaborate on another short answer. What do you think is happening right now? Just another turn of events? You think the government is kind of spearheading this idea that we're in flux, or what's happening over in the East is really isolated to that area? We know that it has longer term impact to the rest of the world. I mean, it has to, because from a humanitarian standpoint, all the way to resources and things like that, it has an effect, because now you've got people that need to be moved around, and live somewhere else, and they don't have jobs. And I see tons of groups that I'm in where people are offering home space, and at no cost. You're welcome to come and stay here while you figure out what you're going to do. And so you'll have all these misplaced people, and that eventually will impact the rest of the world. Maybe it might not touch us as much, but I understand that when I was even gone, that there was a number of people, that even came over to the US from Ukraine. So they were opening doors here to assist people who were being impacted by it. So I know there's some impact there. And then just like, how do those things start to kind of disperse, fall through the cracks for the everyday common person who is maybe just making ends meet, or just over the threshold, but not enough to carry themselves without having those types of that type of income set up and stuff like that. Whatever. I mean, we see a lot of things closing. There's things that are opening as well. When I got back here to the States, I also, I noticed that they're, especially in Texas, they're building up so much. And one of the things that you'll hear people who share, you know, good and logical information is they tell you to pay attention to the trends. They tell you to pay attention to where people are going. And um, Texas is one of those places where people have been migrating for the last 10 years. I mean, I came over within the last 12 years to Texas as well. So this like great migration is also happening. And so when you have that, you have a market that starts to grow, and you have different opportunities for businesses and infrastructure, and just different things like that. But even with that, I understand that the our housing market has slowed down in terms of new development because they can't get these houses built as fast. And that is because what I understand, the materials needed are not being shipped here. Um, I mean, so all these things have a trickle effect. And so it's like, you're going in a circle, but then how do you like, we not how, when you start to see these things happen, we kind of have to start looking for what's the connecting dots, like where does this lead us back to? And it makes me think of when I was in um Tanzania, excuse me, when I was in Tanzania, and to see all of the ship boats sitting at the port, or right outside the port within 10 miles or whatever, and with all these canisters and stuff like that. And I didn't even know that Dar es Salaam was a big port, like that. Like, I didn't know that. There's a lot of things we don't know around when you start kind of moving around the world. But to see all this stuff, and I don't know if that impacts us directly, but some people saying that some of these will sit for a month or so before they're unloaded. And I literally swore that when I took a ferry to Zanzibar from the mainland, when I came into the mainland, and then I went back over to Zanzibar in February and then came back. And it's just like how you feel like the same boats are there, and I have to look at videos to see if the name of the boats are the same. But that was like 2 months later, right? And so when you start thinking about that stuff, and then you see that the impact on cost, like everything's going up, obviously gas is ridiculously high. We haven't seen, these kinds of numbers in years. And then materials, and I was putting in some requests to have some yard work done. Y'all know I've been gone for 2 years, and blessed to, everybody that was helping me with my house and stuff while I was gone. I'm trying to get some of the under the weeds things, the things that, as a homeowner, you should be taking care of, right? And keep in mind, y'all was gone, and I hadn't planned on being gone that long. I just didn't come back. So I really didn't have a good plan in place, but I am actually sharing, how to rent your house when you leave, like some of the tips, things that I learned from the mistakes that I made. And I'm posting that stuff on YouTube. So if you guys want to go, there's on YouTube and TikTok, and it's not in any order. It's just, things that I think of that I'm jotting down that, I came up with. But these are some of the things, like, the in-depth under the weeds, literally under the weeds of maintaining a house. But anyway, I wanted some landscaping, cleanup, and all that kind of stuff done. Everything is growing. It's springtime. And the prices for some of this stuff, and like keeping in mind that I've done this before, like, and I have all this stuff to do with myself. I just don't want to. I'm at a point now where I'm just like, I have enough to do with really spring cleaning, house cleaning, and all of that kind of stuff, that I am not interested in taking on anymore. I used to do all that stuff before. And so just looking at the prices of what people are charging to clean up leaves, right? It's not like I have a golf course size yard, and I know what it cost before, like 2 years ago, and what a difference 2 years can make, probably even what a difference a year can make. So I was looking at some of these quotes, and literally last week I was like, I'm just going to have to make the time and go out there and clean it up myself and do whatever I need to do myself. I'm just like, I'm not paying 5 times as much as I paid 2 years ago. And then I did get a more reasonable offer, and it's still high. Like, I mean, it's about 1.5 times more than what I paid before. But definitely not 5 times more, than 4 times more than what I paid before. And so, you start to see these things increase. And, the common everyday person who is kind of just making ends meet, I'm sure is being, impacted by, a lot of those types of changes. So those are kinds of things that I start looking at when I see all of this mayhem going on, all this crazy stuff going on. I start checking stocks. I promise to God, y'all, every time, I think I said this on one of the last videos I was on, BlackRock keeps coming up, and it's an investment group. Um, keep your eye on the grind for them. I think, their stocks are, dropping, and you want them to drop because, they've been around for a minute, and they're affiliated with some of the bigger names out here in the play yard, on the playground. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see them skyrocket. But go and check them out. It's BLK is their ticker symbol. So, those are the kinds of things that I start paying attention to. And so, outside of just talking about what's happening in the world, because even with all that stuff going on, we still have to kind of function as everyday people. Like, we still have emotional things that we go through. We still have relationship type things. We still have, workplace situations that happen. We still have family. We still have life stuff that goes on. And so the rest of the stuff will continue. It'll continue to go. We'll still hear about Kanye and, and who's Kim dating now. And, like, those things will still happen. But I definitely encourage us to, I think the US has always been ghetto. What does that mean? Handbag honey. Handbag honey. What do you mean by always? I love to hear when, people have thoughts about stuff. What you mean by being ghetto? And are you from the States too? And I asked that because, I met a lot of people when I was abroad, some who had never been here, and like, that's like their last dying wish is to make it to the States. And then some people who have been here, and they're like, please don't tell me you're from the States. So I've seen the both extremes, from that spectrum. But yeah, y'all, what is happening in you all's world? Like I said, there's a lot happening, a lot going on. Anybody going anywhere, after, I don't know if y'all have kids and stuff like that, but anybody planning on traveling more, put a hiatus on their travels in 2020, 2021, and you're looking at 2022 like, like that butter toast with a little garlic butter on it, like it's time, the time is now, and you're ready to, pack a bag and take a trip. Anybody kind of in that space where you itching to get out? I've met a lot of people, and I'm just hearing about where people are going. And I have a friend, and I catch her posts, and she literally has hit, I think, like she has hit like maybe 4 or 5 spots on, this passing around here and there. And I think she was going to be coming back into the States. She's from the States. She lives in the States, but she was doing some traveling. She was going to come back or go wherever and go somewhere else in the States. And the cost for her to travel statewide was more than it would have cost for her to go to another country. So she opted to go to another country. And I love it. I'm just like, make your dollars work for you. Get the experience that you actually want. Because I don't know, we can't really kind of gauge when this is gonna end, especially if we don't know why it began in the first place, right? But the other thing I wanted to say, the other silver lining I was getting to is, if you are a person who own property, whether it's land, apartments, a house, and you are at a place where you can sell, like it is a seller's market. And, the seller's market, from what I hear from some people that I've met and friends that I've known that are selling their homes, this is like the first time that, a common everyday person is getting an ROI that is, 100 to 200%, um, what they owe, or, what their deadline is. You know what I'm saying? And, those things don't happen every day. And so, just being in a position where you can take advantage. Like, we have a lot of people, like a lot of common everyday people that can take advantage. And I know a lot of people are like, yeah, but people selling their house, where they gonna go? You gotta start planning. Think about these things. If you got a family, it's harder to do. But like I said, if you're homeschooling, I met a family in Thailand, and they have their daughter and they homeschool her, abroad. They've been homeschooling, so they're like, well, shoot, if we homeschooling, why are we sitting here, spending more money? Not necessarily making more money, but spending more money, just based on what the cost is. And we could go somewhere else and spend a fraction of the price. I was in Thailand, and literally it's a third of the cost, and maybe even less than that, to live there. For me, actually, it's definitely a third of the cost, of what I'm typically spending a month here. Um, and so when you look at all the increases and everything, insurance went up, interest rates are going up, like boom, 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 all this stuff is going up. The price of food is 4 times what I was spending, abroad. And, so you're trying to save money, but you can't really, because everything is going up in price. And so, those are the kinds of things that I said when you're like, well, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? And I'm just like, put on your exploration hat. If you're the person and you're in this market and you actually get to take advantage of getting a good return on an investment that you made, and you're not necessarily tied to some of the things, maybe you don't have a passport. It's a perfect time to get one and go out there and get you a passport, get your kids passports, whatever, all of that good stuff. And consider, this summer, buy your ticket before June, though, because prices are high. Getting out here, or actually try to travel before June if you can. Excuse me. But getting out here, you guys, and exploring, taking a little time off to explore while the kids, are on summer break, and all of these things. If you're in that group that gets to possibly benefit from it being a buyer's market, because before it'd be a buyer's market, but was, rarely like this type of influx. Very rarely do we see it like this. And so if you can take advantage of it, by all means, do, if you can. And I think this world is changing too, you guys. It's like, it's a space where, um, buying something and keeping it forever isn't necessarily the goal. And I've heard that before. Like, I've heard that, even before I bought this house. It's like, nobody buys houses to keep them forever. And I actually did. Like, I bought this house to, just keep it. Like, why not? But people don't really do that anymore. Not like our grandparents and great grandparents and stuff. And even though their prices for their houses was fraction, it was small fraction of what we spend today, it was big money then. Even if a house was $1,200, is relation, you know, it is in relation to what the cost of living was at that time, or what the income base was at that time. And so, I think we're in a world of, where we shouldn't be afraid of turnover. And one of the things that I actually, you know, appreciated from, Elon Musk is, and something that just being out and about in the world and being around people of all different, economic backgrounds, um, social backgrounds, and financial backgrounds, um, and hearing people who are like more on that they're more financially sound or set. financially stable, but in a like a higher tier than I've really experienced in my lifetime at this point. And you hear them, and they don't have that attachment to things like we do. And maybe it's a Western thing. I've met a lot of people. Most of the people I've met, are not American, outside of like when I was in Nairobi and Tanzania. But a lot of the people I've met are from the further east, Europe, Australia, working in the Southeast Asia area and stuff like that. And their attachment to things is really menial compared to our attachment. And I can tell you 100% considering what I am cleaning up out of my house. When you start going into closets that you don't go in because you don't use the closet, right? And you're pulling stuff out, and you're like, I didn't even know this closet was this big, right? Or I didn't know I had this much stuff in my attic, like, and just stuff that hasn't been open in like 11 years, and probably even before that. Like when I literally moved here, things haven't been open. You don't even realize you still have this stuff, right? But the attachment to it, you start going through, oh, should I keep this or what? Like, what are you keeping it for? But experiencing, that, and then Elon Musk saying, yes, you're from Ohio. Okay. Girl, you got that. You definitely got to tell me about why you say it's ghetto. But when he was saying, I don't own a home. I don't own that stuff. I sleep on friends' couches, and I literally had in this last 20 months, like I had been doing that in Chicago anyway. I was already a person that I was literally staying at friends' houses, and I had a house. But whenever I go into the city, if I was gone for a weekend or maybe a week or whatever, if I was taking a vacation or doing whatever, I would just stay. I had multiple friends that let me have access to their homes. And I that's the life I live. So this isn't even new, but it's not something that we think about. Like we don't think about sharing space. Like we call it co-living now and co-working and all of that. And it's almost like the way of the rest of the world. Like a lot of people share space, they room and bunk together. And and I met a lot of people that weren't paying monthly rent or um, you know, booking booking places and paying money. They were staying at people's houses that they knew or that they met. I'm trying this house sitters thing coming up here for my next set of travels, and people doing all kinds of different things. I met a woman and her son, and her son's an adult, in Acapulco, and they were staying in this house that I had seen on the cliff. This house rented for $1,000 a night. They weren't renting it; they traded space for her home in Hawaii with the person who owned this beautiful home in Acapulco. And they stayed 10 days, and it would have been equivalent of $10,000, and they didn't pay a dime. And they used the car. Like it was one of those things where they shared the car. The car was available for them, all of the stuff. So a lot of people are doing different things, and you don't necessarily experience that because I think we're so used to you work for it, you pay for it. And that's kind of how we also show, you know, um, our level is by how much we can spend on something. And I'm just the opposite. I want to show you places I've been and I ain't paying no money. To me, that's the come up. That's the American dream, or the dream in general. It's not the American dream, because the American dream is to be in debt. But the dream is to, live around this world and do it as economically feasible as possible. You said handbag honey says low wages, high cost of living, bad work-life balance, hardly any maternity leave. Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of stories about maternity leave. People coming back and going through, you know, having to come back to work in 6 weeks. I don't even know, is it 6 weeks, 9 weeks? Is it 6 weeks for paternity? It's been so long since I had a child, years and years ago. But I wasn't in the workforce at that time, but in that moment, I should say, I was working. But nothing has really changed. And I've had clients in Canada, and they get a year. The maternity leave is a year, and their job is held for them. If they're in a corporate job, and I think that is a countrywide policy. It's a government requirement that you cannot someone, you can't take someone's job simply because, they had a child. And I knew somebody who did that. Like, I worked with a client there, and she went on maternity leave. Somebody else filled in for her, and she was gone for a year, and she came back to the same position, but they kind of had rotated. So she actually got a better position when she came back. She didn't worry about anything. Now, her husband didn't get as much time, but I think he got like 3 months, something like that, 90 days. That feels like it was something like that. Maybe it was 6 months, but they get just as much time. But I think he returned to work and all of that. I don't know if their pay is decreased as a part of that, but or they're not paid at all, which might be, the caveat to it. But they get to hold on to their job and come back, but they have enough parental and baby time to actually bond, and they think that that's really important. So yeah, I agree when you say if that's how you're defining the U.S. as ghetto, I can concur with that. We still have one of the lowest minimum wages in terms of like when you look at how wealthy this country is supposed to be, right? And then we still have a minimum wage for service people in the restaurant industry and other service type of jobs that are still getting less than $3 or $4 an hour, because we have an expectation of people tipping. So we expect our consumers to pay people's wages. And the negative thing about that is when you go abroad, and that is an insult. When you go to other places, like I had somebody when I was in China. Yes, I was in China heading down to Hong Kong, and this incident, I was at a restaurant, I was eating, and their money, like their good money, is coins, like heavy coins and stuff like that. But anyway, I'd ordered something, I got my bill, and I paid it in cash or whatever, and I left a tip. And the wait, I think it was a guy, I'm not mistaken, like came after me, was like, no, no, you can't, or whatever. And I was like, just saying thank you. And, I had this explained to me when I went to Milan back in 2014. And then even when I was in Tanzania, people would be like, oh, you're American. Because I mean, like sometimes you leave 50 cents or a dollar, or, sometimes a tip, if I felt worth like it was worth it, 20%. Or whatever the case may be. And I had somebody literally, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you're American, because we don't need to tip. That's included. Like the price is the price." And I was just like, I worked in the service industry. I was, a mixologist, and so and I worked for tips. Like I didn't get a salary. I would do gigs that would be tips, because I knew like I could make a lot of money. Sometimes $500 a night, 1,000. This was like in addition to my full-time job. This was just something I did on the side. So yeah, if I did like a 6-hour gig and I walk away with $500 or more, I think I, came up. That's $100 an hour, right? And so, from their perspective, they're like, that's an insult. Now, I will tell you that I feel like in the last year or two, everybody's really been hurting, especially with the tourist, economy, all that stuff, just, on the decrease all around the world, that if you do offer it, a lot of them graciously will accept it. So, I know a lot of people are like, don't do that. If they tell you no, sometimes you could just ask as so that you don't offend anybody. But just say, hey, is it okay if I give you a tip? And then some of them will say no. When I was on the east coast of Africa, they have a mobile app. And so you don't necessarily, for the most part, they didn't exchange any money, physical money. And so you could literally tip people. One of the things they don't have is they would run your receipt, and there would never be a tip line. There would never be any way that you could tip. And so if you're paying it through a mobile app or whatever, what I learned in the beginning is I would tip. And then I would ask the wait staff, what do they do? I put the tip in there, and they're like, oh, they don't give us that. You just paid extra for your meal. I was like, oh, really? Because there was no line. Even if you wrote it, it didn't matter. They didn't look at it and go, oh, okay, let me give it to this person. And they also do like a collective thing where they just have one bowl or whatever, and all the money goes in there, and everybody gets, they just divide it up by how much wait staff or our staff or whatever. And so everybody gets the same thing. So, if you want to tip someone specifically, you have to kind of do it. Sometimes you have to do it in private, or you have to ask them. And I would just ask for their number and say, hey, can I get your number so I can pass you a tip? And many of them were very gracious, very grateful for the offering, but they didn't necessarily expect it. Only time you know when somebody expects it is if they're actually begging you for money or something like that. But that was, to me, I felt like it was a little bit of a rare occurrence. Most of the time, people are asking you to buy something, and that's how they want to make their living. But I mean, it's just like so many things like that, and I just sit back and kind of wonder what's next, and how do we position ourselves so that we're benefiting from it again, because what comes up must also come down. So we got to get ready at some point for the drop. Are we prepared for the drop? What do y'all think? There's just a lot of stuff. I'm not going to go into all the things I mentioned before, just talking about the different situations and stuff happening in the world. All this other stuff. We'll save that for another vlog day. But I do hope that you guys, thank y'all for chiming in, and coming on. And if you haven't already subscribed to my YouTube. I was gonna cut off my Facebook and go to my YouTube, because I think there's more people on my YouTube right now. Actually, let me see if it lets me do that. It won't just end it. I would have to delete it. So, all right. So yeah. So I'll just stay on, and I'm gonna close out. But hey, you guys, if you are, like I said, interested in looking at renting your space out, home, condo, whatever, like I said, I'll be adding some more tips to my YouTube and my TikTok, and also sharing more. Y'all, I'm trying to get, I got to get a new phone. But I'm also trying to get, so I do some recordings and stuff, but this phone I only use for video because the other camera is cracked. And so it's very fuzzy, so it has a very bad reception. So it would look so grainy and crappy. If I were to go live on that. So I use a different phone for that, but I got to get another phone so that I can do put everything together, and post some other stuff, because folks have asked about some of the other places that I've been to, and just, what it's like here and there, and give some examples, and, different things to do, what the climate is like, how the people are, and everything isn't the same for everybody everywhere, but I always suggest that you take an opportunity to go and experience some of the stuff yourself firsthand, because what I like may not be what you like. And sometimes I love simplicity. Like, I don't need a lot of glam, because I'm not interested in doing a lot of this uh, high up stuff all the time. Like, every now and then it's nice to go to a nice dinner and stuff like that. But otherwise, sometimes it's kind of nice to just be chill. Whereas some people are looking for more of a, highlight kind of experience. And I definitely can point you in the right direction, but not necessarily mean that, I per se live that way on a regular basis. But I'm just sharing with people. I'm kind of catering to folks who are more on a budget, even people who have kids, have families. So you got maybe more than one person. Even though I'm solo, I can still share experience and stuff like that, and places that are kid friendly, like, seeing people with a lot of kids. And that's one thing that you do see a lot, or that I saw a lot when I was traveling, is a lot of families with kids, from young kids, babies, to teenagers that are so used to, traveling to some of these places. My first time on the east coast of Africa, and some of these families, they come every year, and I'm just like, wow, and they're just like it's just equivalent to us going down to, Vegas, Miami, or beachfront, or whatever. It's like that to them. They're just like, yeah, yeah, we're on vacation. Yeah, you know. So I want to share more of those experiences because I have all of the stuff. I just, editing is a lot of work. So I want to get more into kind of doing some of these, just doing more live chats and stuff like that. But then kind of recapping some of my street walks, when I'm out and about in the streets, and just share some of that stuff. But you guys can find most of that stuff on my YouTube or my stories, whether it's um, Instagram or in the reels on Instagram or shorts on YouTube. Oh, I got up early this morning. My day is coming to an end. But yeah, if you guys want to check out some of those things, or I had somebody ask me about Egypt because I posted some of my trip to Egypt, and they were looking for some information on traveling solo as a woman, because I did post something about when they don't really take no for an answer. But I will tell you, I will go back to Egypt solo again. Kind of just know what to look out for. You're never 100%, like, everything isn't always perfect everywhere. But some of the same things that we concern ourselves with outside of the country happen right here in the country. But because we shield a lot and we cover up a lot in the States, you don't hear about a lot. You don't necessarily think sex trafficking in the United States. You're just like, in Texas was not, I think 2 years ago, so maybe 3 years ago, we're number 2 in the country for sex trafficking. And so, when we start talking about going other places and being safe, I think a lot of times we negate where we live because it's not in the news, because it's not profitable for our country to down itself, because we won't make money. People aren't going to travel around and visit places if there is a fear of some sort of physical violence happening to them. So we have to think about those kinds of things, because the world is beautiful, y'all. There's 193 countries out there, and I definitely encourage you to go and see some of them. So anyway, check my YouTube for some of that stuff, or my Instagram. My link is in my Facebook bio. And if you are following me on YouTube, you will see it in the description once this goes live. I actually posted a live this morning, but it hasn't shown up yet, so I don't know what happened to it. Hopefully it'll pop up at some point. So anyway, y'all, I'm gonna get out of here. Thank you guys for jumping on. Again, thank y'all for chiming in and getting in on this impromptu. I know I didn't follow the original script for the talk tonight, but I just wanted to come on because I was primed and ready to get on, put my face on the screen. So I'll see you guys later this week, maybe even tomorrow. Oh yeah, it'll probably be tomorrow, because I'll do some more tips tomorrow. So if y'all want to see me, jump on my YouTube. I'll probably do it live. Okay, you guys can follow me at Where's Ali, WHERESALI. I'm gonna get out of here. You guys know the drill. Toodles and noodles. Peace and hair grease.